with Dave Morgan, Audrey Shimp, meteorologist Sue Morose, and Andy Gannon with sports.
Good evening. Rockford police today arrested more than 70 pro-life demonstrators. Dave?
Thanks, Audrey. Almost 200 abortion opponents staged a 5-hour demonstration at the Northern Illinois Women's Center. Police arrested dozens of protesters who forced their way into the abortion clinic, blocking the entrance and stairwells.
Nearly 150 pro-lifers marched outside the Northern Illinois Women's Center today, while 72 demonstrators staged what's known as an Operation Rescue inside the building. The rescuers forced their way into the building and obstructed stairwells and the entrance to the abortion clinic.
They are sacrificing themselves, as far as the law goes, to protect those lives, to put themselves, their bodies, between the woman and the doctor who would perform the abortion. Very nonviolent, very peaceful. They are not bullying. They are instructed not to speak to anyone. All they're doing upstairs is praying and they're singing.
A confrontation ensued between the pro-lifers and the building owner when the rescuers entered the building, and each side has accused the other of physical abuse. The owner admits that he'd planned to hose the protesters with a truckload of raw sewage to prevent their entry, but he says he abandoned that tactic.
They pushed me. I was standing in a doorway. I was pushed out of the way. I pushed back. Then 7 people jumped me, and like I said, I was the one that was battered. I did not initiate anything.
Organizers say today's demonstration was not calculated to coincide with the expected vote by the U.S. Supreme Court today on a key Missouri abortion case, but rather they want to shut down the clinic on what is traditionally its busiest day of the week. Police arrested all 72 pro-lifers who resisted inside of the building, and as they were carted away to the police department on special city buses, the outside demonstrators watched and sang peacefully.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
To make sure no one's injured, we've been using portable chairs. And we're taking great care to ensure that nobody is injured and that everybody's rights are protected.
The clinic's doctor, Richard Ragsdale, says the protesters physically battered 2 of his female staff members, and he says the disturbance did temporarily halt his business. The protesters who were arrested were charged with criminal trespass to property and resisting arrest, and they were released on notices to appear in Winnebago County Court on May 5th. Sterling Benson, WIFR-TV, Action News.
Project Rescue spokeswoman Kathy Lewis claims none of the clinic staff were battered. Lewis also claims that videotapes, which will be given to the group's attorney, will show that the building's owner, Wayne Webster, was the only one doing any pushing and shoving, and that none of the demonstrators attacked him. Meanwhile, the chairperson of the Rockford Coalition for Reproductive Choice, Martha Polito, says Operation Rescue was actually Operation Bully because the protesters intimidated patients with their tactics.
Just as they did in February, the protesters went into the building and blocked the entrance to the clinic to keep women from going inside. But this time, the owner of the building knew they were coming. He chained the doors to the center with protesters inside to prevent others from entering and threatened to spray them with raw sewage.
Well, they've been giving me a lot of about 3.5 years, and I just figured that I'd give them a little back.
Webster did not follow through with his plan, though observers claim he was involved in shoving matches with some of the protesters.
They pushed me. I was standing in a doorway. I was pushed out of the way. I pushed back. Then 7 people jumped me, and like I said, I was the one that was battered.
All I can tell you is that we are interviewing everyone involved. We're conducting an investigation into the events that led up to this. If any charges are warranted against anyone, then we'll place them at that time.
Charges of criminal trespass and resisting arrest were filed against those who refused to leave the building.
Good luck to you, sir.
City buses were brought in and police officers began removing resistors one by one.
We're going to stack you up like cordwood back here unless you want to watch.
Several cars blocking the entrance to the building's parking lot were ticketed and towed.
Your vehicle is parked there. You're advised to move it.
Organizers say they chose today to stage this protest because it's a busy day at the clinic. They say this is not an attempt to draw attention to the abortion decision currently before the Supreme Court.
Whatever decision the Supreme Court makes in the future will make no difference to these children scheduled to die here today.
3 busloads of people were taken to the public safety building where they received notices to appear in court. But group leaders tell us neither the arrest or the threat will keep them from doing this again. Stacey McKinley, Channel 17 News.
In Madison today, about 80 anti-abortion protesters were arrested after a demonstration outside a local women's center there. They were booked on various charges, including unlawful trespassing, obstructing traffic, and disorderly conduct charges. Authorities say those arrested would be allowed out of jail if they give their real names.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Robinson.
And I'm Terry Sullivan.
Local Right to Life supporters camped out on the steps of the Northern Illinois Women's Center this morning. They were protesting what they claimed was a heavy schedule of abortions to be performed at that center today. As Keith Mecca reports, many of those protesters were arrested.
In all, about 300 pro-lifers gathered in front of the downtown clinic today, a day when 30 abortions were scheduled to take place.
In an attempt to place their bodies between the woman who would come to destroy her baby and the doctor who would perform that surgery for profit.
The protesters claim the demonstration was non-violent, but the owner of the clinic has a different story.
7 people came up behind me and battered me, pushed me through the door, caught my hand in the door. I'm bleeding because of these violent people. My janitor is downtown right now with a police officer. He was battered.
He's alleging, and the janitor are both filing battery complaints. And we're conducting an investigation on those charges, and if the circumstances warrant, then additional charges may be placed on certain protesters.
After getting inside the clinic, protesters blocked the entrance to the first and second floors. Officials say Webster then chained the doors shut, trapping the demonstrators inside. Officials removed the chains and started arresting the protesters.
This is private property. They cannot enter private property. They have to maintain their picketing on public property.
Police had to literally carry protesters out of the building. They were then placed on buses to go to the public safety building for processing. Protest organizers say they'll continue with these demonstrations in the future as long as abortions continue in Rockford. Keith Mecca, 13 Eyewitness News.
It's not certain if the protesters were successful in their attempts to reduce the number of abortions performed at the center today. The center's director, Dr. Richard Ragsdale, said only an average number of patients were seen.
Next time, come up. Carry you, Terry. I'll pick you up, brother.
Rockford's oldie station. Jerry, you got all the information so we can tell them all about the classic cruise? Sure do, Bill. All right. Ready to go? Not right now, but get your pencils and scorecards ready, and we'll tell you everything you know about need to know about the July 3rd Freedom on Wheels Classic Cruise. Hello there. This is important news about the grand reopening of Kaleidoscope by Carlberg. It's a really exciting sort of deal, this grand reopening of Kaleidoscope by Carlberg. But wait, it's not really a reopening. It's never closed or anything. See, you used to know us as Carlberg European Dance Bar, but now we're Kaleidoscope to reflect all the many facets.
They're all in.
Sportswear and footwear to our shops.